Listen closely, because what you're about to hear feels like one of those secrets that slips out at 2:47 a.m. during a messy group chat meltdown and suddenly changes everything. Karlissa and Blueface in 2026 aren't just trending there, vibrating at a frequency that rattles wallets, egos, and timelines all at once. This isn't romance, it's a live-action social experiment where love is optional and chaos is mandatory. Imagine a reality show that makes the Kardashians look like a PBS documentary, then set it on fast forward and remove the adult supervision. That's the energy we're dealing with. Whispers say money is moving funny, loyalties are wobbling like a folding chair at a backyard barbecue. And every family moment feels like it's one IG live away from imploding. The kind of implosion where captions are written before the video even finishes uploading. People are asking who's really in control, who's cashing out, and who's about to get emotionally evicted with no security deposit. And the wild part, the smiles are louder than the explanations before 2026 even finishes unpacking its bags. The Karlissa and Blueface situation already feels like one of those scandals people pretend they didn't see coming, even though the warning signs were blinking in neon for years. This isn't a random flare-up. This is a long brewing storm where ego, money, family loyalty, and internet fame have been circling each other like sharks that learned how to use smartphones. And now, somebody just dropped blood in the water. The foundation of this chaos was never love or hate. It was leverage. Karlissa has always understood that proximity is power, especially when the cameras are already rolling and the audience is hungry. Blueface, meanwhile, has mastered the art of being unpredictable in a way that keeps people watching even when they swear they're done. Put those two energies in the same orbit, and you don't get peace, you get a pressure cooker with a cracked lid. The first whispers didn't come from a dramatic announcement. They came from subtle shifts, tone changes, a missing name here, a delayed shout-out there. The kind of details casual viewers miss but hardcore watchers clock immediately. Suddenly, captions felt colder, smiles looked tighter, and every appearance together felt less like family and more like a business meeting where nobody trusts the numbers on the spreadsheet. Then came the so-called leak. Although leak might be generous, it was more like a drip that wouldn't stop. Messages allegedly hinting at money disagreements, control issues, and who really calls the shots behind the scenes. Nothing fully confirmed, but just credible enough to make people lean closer to their screens. Because when it comes to this family ecosystem, history has taught the internet one thing: where there's smoke, there's usually a live stream. Public reaction split instantly. One side painted Karlissa as the strategic mastermind, the type who plays the long game while everyone else is busy reacting. The other side defended Blueface, arguing that chaos has always been his brand and anyone orbiting him should know the rules by now. And then there was a third group, the exhausted spectators, who joked that this saga had more plot twists than a streaming service original that somehow still gets renewed. Sarcasm took over timelines because reality felt too absurd to discuss seriously. People compared the dynamic to a family-run corporation where HR quit years ago. Others joked that Thanksgiving dinners in this circle probably require NDA letters and a security deposit. But behind the jokes was a real unease. The energy had shifted from entertaining mess to something sharper, something that hinted at real consequences. What escalated things fast was the resurfacing of old statements. Clips of Karlissa talking about loyalty, respect, and knowing your place started circulating again, reframed as potential warnings rather than casual commentary. Old Blueface interviews where he laughed off drama suddenly sounded less carefree and more dismissive in hindsight. The internet loves hindsight. It turns jokes into red flags and sarcasm into prophecy. And let's talk about the money, because that's where every smile starts to look suspicious. Allegations didn't focus on amounts, but on control. Who signs what? Who benefits when a name trends? Who gets cut in when family drama turns into monetized content? Because by 2026, drama isn't just emotional, it's a revenue stream. And when family and finances overlap, love starts keeping receipts, the first visible tension. came during moments that should have been neutral. Celebrations that felt awkward, appearances that seemed forced, the kind of interactions where people stand close for the camera but emotionally feel miles apart. Viewers noticed the pauses, the talking over each other, the passive-aggressive, humor disguised as jokes. This wasn't playful banter. This was coded communication. Karlissa's presence began to feel heavier, more intentional. Every word sounded like it had been weighed before release. Meanwhile, Blueface leaned harder into unpredictability, almost daring critics to keep up. It was like watching two different strategies collide, one calculated, one chaotic, and neither willing to blink first. The tension wasn't explosive yet, but it was loud in its restraint. Fans started speculating about motives, because speculation is the internet's favorite sport. Was this about protecting a brand? Reclaiming control, drawing a line before things went too far? Or was it simply years of unresolved issues finally bubbling up now that the spotlight was brighter than ever? No one had answers, but everyone had theories, and they spread faster than facts ever could. What made this chapter especially volatile was the sense that everyone involved knew they were being watched and adjusted accordingly. Statements felt vague on purpose, silence became strategic, and every accent spoke louder than any rant ever could in this ecosystem. Not posting is a message, not responding is a declaration. And people were reading between every single line. The first reactions from insiders only added fuel. Friends, associates, and so-called sources popped up with half confirmations and conveniently timed opinions. Nobody outright denied anything. Nobody fully explained anything. It was a masterclass in keeping controversy alive without owning it. The result was a narrative that grew bigger than any individual involved. By the end of this phase, the story had transformed. What started as whispers about tension evolved into a full-blown debate about power, loyalty, and who really benefits. When family drama becomes public property, the audience wasn't just watching anymore, they were judging, dissecting, and choosing sides. Like this was a cultural referendum. And the scariest part, this was only the setup. Because when control is questioned and money is implied, the next moves are never quiet. This wasn't the explosion yet. This was the camera zooming in right before everything goes sideways, letting you know that whatever happens next is going to be louder, messier, and impossible to ignore. This is where the situation stopped being a slow burn and turned into a full-blown internet wildfire, the kind that spreads faster than apologies and burns hotter than explanations. Once the tension was visible, the internet did what it does best. It exaggerated it, memed it, and weaponized it. Suddenly, Karlissa and Blueface weren't just part of a family dispute. They were characters in a cultural soap opera that refreshed every time someone blinked. The escalation didn't come from a single meltdown. It came from reactions, subtle reactions, loud reactions, reactions to reactions, and not here, a laugh there. A clip reposted without context, because context is optional. When chaos is trending, fans started screenshotting facial expressions like they were decoding a true crime documentary. One raised eyebrow turned into a conspiracy. One delayed response turned into a motive. Celebrities dipped their toes into the conversation the way people test bathwater carefully, but visibly. A few liked the wrong posts. A few commented vague emojis that somehow said everything and nothing at the same time. And just like that, the saga leveled up. Because once other names attach themselves, the story stops being personal and starts feeling industry adjacent. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was business whispers disguised as entertainment. Memes flooded timelines. Because humor is how the internet processes discomfort, Karlissa was portrayed as the calculated chess player, calmly moving pieces while everyone else was distracted by noise. Blueface, meanwhile, became the embodiment of controlled chaos, the human equivalent of pressing random buttons and seeing what explodes. People joked that this dynamic made reality TV look scripted and soap operas look underfunded. But behind the jokes, outrage simmered. Some accused Karlissa of manipulation. suggesting strategy where others thought protection. Others accused Blueface of recklessness, arguing that unpredictability stops being charming when it affects people beyond yourself. The comments sections became battlegrounds where strangers argued like they had skin in the game, typing essays about loyalty, boundaries, and respect as if they were unpaid consultants. Every old clip suddenly gained new meaning. A laugh from years ago was reframed as shade. A supportive comment was reinterpreted as a warning sign. The past was dragged into the present and dressed up as evidence. It was like watching a movie where every flashback was rewritten to fit the plot twist, and the audience ate it up. Because nothing feeds engagement like retroactive significance, Karlissa's public presence during this phase felt deliberate to the point of being surgical. Not too much, not too little, just enough to stay visible without explaining anything. That restraint drove people wild. Silence became a Rorschach test. Everyone saw whatever they wanted in it. To some, it screamed confidence. To others, it screamed calculation. Either way, it worked. Blueface, on the other hand, leaned into the noise like it was fuel. Unpredictability became performance art. Every move felt like it dared critics to keep guessing. Was he brushing it off? Was he building towards something bigger? Or was he simply refusing to play by anyone else's rules? Nobody could tell, and that uncertainty kept eyes glued to screens. The wildest part was how quickly this spilled beyond the core fanbase. People who didn't follow either closely suddenly had opinions. Think pieces popped up. Reaction videos multiplied like rabbits. Even those claiming they were over it somehow knew every update. That's how you know a story has legs. It chases you down even when you try to walk away. Pop culture comparisons went nuclear. People likened the dynamic to a rap version of Succession, minus the scripted dialogue, but with twice the emotional damage. Others joked it felt like a reality show crossover nobody asked for, but everyone was watching anyway. The comparisons weren't just jokes, they framed how audiences interpreted motives, power, and outcomes. And then came the outrage spikes. Moments where a comment or clip tipped the balance and reignited everything. Each spike felt bigger than the last, like waves crashing closer and closer to shore. Apologies were demanded, explanations were expected. And when neither arrived in satisfying form, the backlash doubled down. What made this phase especially chaotic was how everyone seemed aware of the audience and played to it differently. Some fed the fire, some pretended it didn't exist, and some tried to look above it all, which somehow made things worse. Because nothing annoys the internet more than someone acting unbothered while everyone else is foaming at the mouth. By now, the narrative wasn't just about what happened. It was about what might happen next. Speculation turned into prediction. Prediction turned into expectation. People started treating theories like spoilers, convinced they already knew how the story would end. And that's dangerous territory, because expectations create pressure and pressure makes people crack. As this phase peaked, one thing became undeniable. Whatever this started as, it had outgrown its original boundaries. It wasn't manageable anymore. Too many eyes, too many interpretations, too much money potentially tied to outcomes. This wasn't just a messy chapter. It was the midpoint where everything spirals before the fallout. And just when people thought they'd seen the worst of it, the energy shifted again. The jokes flowed, the memes felt sharper, the commentary turned more serious. That's when you know the story is about to change gears. Because when laughter fades and scrutiny sharpens, consequences aren't far behind. This was no longer about sides, it was about impact. And the next phase wasn't going to be about reactions, it was going to be about results. This is the stage where the smoke clears just enough for everyone to realize the fire wasn't just for show. After the memes cooled and the reactions exhausted themselves, the Karlissa and Blueface saga entered its most dangerous phase, the aftermath. Because chaos is entertaining until it starts leaving marks. And by this point, the marks were impossible to hide. Reputations shifted first. Not collapsed, not destroyed, but reshaped. That's almost worse. Karlissa's image hardened into something more formidable. To supporters, she looked like a calculated protector who refused to be outplayed. To critics, she became the embodiment of quiet control, the kind that doesn't shout but still moves the room. Either way, the days of being underestimated were officially over. People stopped asking if she had influence and started asking how much. Blueface's perception fractured in a different way. His unpredictability, once treated like harmless chaos, began to feel heavier, less entertaining, more consequential. Some fans still rode for the wildcard energy, but others started questioning the cost. When unpredictability becomes the headline too often, it stops feeling edgy and starts feeling risky. And risk is cute until contracts, brands, and long-term money enter the chat. Relationships around them didn't survive untouched. Some went quiet, others drew visible lines, the circle tightened. And that alone told a story, because when people start choosing silence over proximity, it usually means they're choosing safety over loyalty. The family dynamic, once loud and public, became noticeably restrained, not peaceful, just careful. Like everyone learned the hard way that words have receipts. Public perception followed a similar shift. Audiences matured mid-saga. What started as entertainment evolved into analysis. Viewers began questioning patterns instead of moments, motives instead of moods. The tone of commentary changed from laughing at the mess to dissecting its meaning. That's when you know a storyline has crossed from spectacle into case study. Financial implications loomed quietly but heavily. Nobody needed numbers to understand the stakes. Opportunities respond to stability, and stability had become a question mark. Brands watch these moments closely. They don't care about drama, they care about predictability. And unpredictability, once a selling point, now looked like a liability that required disclaimers. The most telling aftermath wasn't what was said, but what wasn't. No grand resolution. No viral sit-down that tied everything up neatly. Just distance, adjustments, strategic silence. And that kind of ending drives the internet insane because it denies closure. It leaves room for interpretation. And interpretation is fertile ground for future scandals. Karlissa emerged from this phase with a sharper edge, less talkative, more intentional, the kind of presence that suggests lessons were learned and filed away for later use. Blueface, meanwhile, looked like someone standing at a crossroads, leaning into chaos or finally realizing that chaos eventually charges interest. The audience sensed it too. Engagement dipped, then spiked again, not with laughter but with anticipation. People weren't asking what happened anymore. They were asking what happens next, because this didn't feel finished, it felt paused. Like the episode ended right before the cliffhanger reveal. And that's the real legacy of this chapter. Not the arguments, not the memes, not even the outrage. It's the uncertainty. The feeling that something bigger is still loading in the background. That the power dynamics have shifted permanently, even if the surface looks calm. By the end, one truth stood out above the noise. This was never just about family or fame. It was about control in an era where attention equals currency, about who steers the narrative and who gets dragged by it, about learning. Too late sometimes. That chaos is a resource, but only if you know how to manage it. The internet moved on, as it always does. But not without bookmarking this saga, because stories like this don't disappear, they resurface, they evolve. They come back louder when conditions are right. And if 2026 taught us anything, it's that when Karlissa and Blueface occupy the same headline, it's never the final chapter. It's just the calm before the next leak, the next twist, the next moment everyone swears they won't watch right before they do. And this is where you come in, because stories like this don't survive without an audience that refuses to look away. If you made it this far, congratulations, you're officially part of the Chaos Committee. You've seen how this saga twisted, flipped, and left more questions than answers. And you already know this isn't the end. This is just the pause before the next notification sends everyone spiraling again. So do what you do best. Smash that like button like it owes you money and just try to deck you in public. Drop a comment and tell me who you think really holds the power here, because silence is cute, but opinions keep this engine running. Was this strategy? Was this ego? Or was it the kind of slow burn family fallout that only explodes once the cameras are rolling? I want theories, hot takes, and absolutely unfiltered guesses. If you're new here, hit subscribe like you're locking your seatbelt before the car swerves. This channel doesn't do calm. We don't do tidy endings. We do leaked energy, messy timelines, and stories that make group chats feel boring. Scandals don't knock anymore, they just walk in, and we cover them every single time. And don't forget to turn on notifications, because the moment this story mutates again, and trust me, it will, you don't want to hear about it secondhand. By the time other channels catch up, we're already breaking it down, roasting the receipts, and connecting dots nobody else wants to touch. This saga might be cooling on the surface, but beneath it, the pressure is still building. New moves, new leaks, new alliances waiting to crack. And when it happens, you already know where to be. Same chaos, same energy, same obsession with the truth hiding inside the mess. This isn't just commentary. This is CLEB. SYNC. INC.